Hello, I'm Anthony. Welcome back to the Reaktor 6 tutorial series. Today I'm going to show you how to use Reaktor 6 as a send effects unit. Got this simple sequence. We actually created this in one of the previous episodes of this series. If you want to check out the Patreon and YouTube channel member links below, you can get access to all of these previous templates. But basically, I'm going to head into my user library, and from episode 4 I had the basic 8-step sequencer, which I'm just basically going to drag into my project. And let's get this running just to remind ourselves what that sequence sounds like. Pretty straightforward stuff. I want to add some delay and reverb to this, and I'm going to use Reaktor to do it. So I'll just close this down for the moment. First thing to do is create myself a couple of new tracks upon which I'm going to put my send effects. So head up into my tracks menu, and I'm going to create 2 instances of the Reaktor 6 FX effects unit. You can see it's basically in the native instruments bundle. I'm going to route it to my keyboard's master track. I want 2 of them, and I'll rename them manually in a moment. I'm going to select the patch option because we're dealing with racks. I'll just shut that down for the moment. I'm going to sort out all of my housekeeping first. So I always have my effects tracks at the bottom of the style of the type of sound that I'm routing from. So all of my keyboard tracks will all go into these effects units, and I'm going to call these keys reverb and keys delay. So each of these tracks have their own instance of a Reaktor 6 FX block. At the moment, obviously, they're not doing anything. That's what we're going to configure today. Let's start with the delay unit for no particular reason, just because I want to. Open the effects unit, and here we are. I don't need a clock because I'm taking all of my timing information from the outside world. Not interested in noting because this is audio data that's flowing through this rack. And I don't even need a mixer for reasons that we'll go into a little while later. I just need an in and an out. Now this is the delay unit, so I need to select a delay. In my library, if you have a look in the blocks primes folder, rounds has a delay unit. Here it is, rounds delay. Let's drop that in between in and out. Now as things stand at the moment, any audio that gets routed to this track won't get any further because this instance of Reaktor is basically putting a hard stop on the audio. The audio in is flowing into this block and it's not getting any further. So you're not going to hear anything out of this. What I need to do is wire these modules together. So I'll take my inputs from my in block into the inputs of the delay, and then pretty obviously out of the delay to the outside world. So that's now it. That delay unit is routed in and is ready to accept information. Just move this down below so that we can see our mixer. So here's our 8-step sequencer track. Now I need to send a signal from this track into my keys delay. So open up my sends, and I'm going to route it to keys delay, which is the name that I've called this instance. And here it is. Turn it on. Set myself up a basic volume level, and now this sequence is going to throw a signal to the delay track, but we're not quite good to go yet. This is a send effect, and I have a personal rule that I always follow. All send effects of mine are mixed at 100%, so I control the amount of information that goes into this track from my send level. This here is where I control how much information comes out of the audio track into the delay. I always want the effect itself working as hard as it possibly can. I'm also going to sync it to Cubase, so if you click on MS, it'll turn it into a synced mode, and if I select 1/24, that's basically a 16th triplet. And we're basically good to go. Let's hear what that sounds like. And there we are. You can see the delay signal coming into the keys delay track, and I can control the amount of it from this send effect, send level. I have another typical heuristic when I'm working with delays, which is to roll off a little bit of the highs and lows. So you roll highs off because in the natural environment, that's how reverb and delay effects work. High frequencies are absorbed more easily by the outside world, so we hear less of them in any reflections. Low pass, you generally want to trim some of that away, because that's where most of the energy of the sound is. So if all of your delays have got an equal amount of low frequency, they tend to kind of build up and mush the sound out. So these are all very, very general principles, but I'm just going to tail off some of the highs and lows from this sound. Let's have a listen to that. Tighten the sound up a bit. Now you want to decide how often those delays are going to bounce for. Best way to do this is to get the thing going, stop it, and listen to the tail. It's really easy when it's running to get completely confused as to how many delay bounces there are. That's about right. Okay, one final quick listen to this before we move on to the reverb. Pretty happy with that. I'm going to save that as a basic preset of mine now. So I'll have access to this as a send effect whenever I'm sorting out delays. Now onto the reverb. Similar kind of thing, throw everything else away in the middle, and this time drop a reverb in. Just going to bypass the delay send so that we can work on this one in a little better isolation. This time I'm sending to the keys reverb, turn it on, dial a basic default amount in. Another quick note about these levels, setting mix to 100% is one thing. Having your effects units themselves, your effects sends tracks at 0 dB is another. You basically have them as flat as you possibly can, and then you've only got one place to worry about your levels, which is your send output. So once again, by turning the track on and off and listening to the tail, I get to hear it. Diffusion and spread are the things that most heavily characterize or distinguish a reverb from a delay. So I'll just knock them up to 100 and we'll hear what that sounds like. Have it a bit more expansive. There, it's really starting to sound reverby now. For exactly the same reason as we talked about in the delay, I'm just going to tail off some of both the highs and the lows. And that's a pretty decent basic reverb to get us up and running with. Let's bring the delay back in and we'll mix both of those to taste. So now this track is sending to both of those effects units, the delay and the reverb. Oh dear, somebody didn't colour their cables. And we'll save this. As rounds reverb. Yes, I'm sorting the delay out as well. And that's how to use Reaktor as a send effects unit. Hope you enjoyed the episode. Please hit like if you did. I'll see you next time. Thanks very much.